Welcome back to Your Story Medicine. Today I am with Margarita Alcantara, who is a shamanista, medicine woman, activator for the new code of power, and a keeper of the blue flame. She helps spiritually conscious entrepreneurs activate the next level of their power so they can make their deep impact in the world. She activates divine power codes in others and opens portals of power on Mother Gaia by opening the door to the source of true power to clear artificial power and unify Earth into light. She is an embodiment of Mother Gaia, conduit between the Star Nation and Mother Gaia, and Chakra expert. It just felt like poetry reading this. And as woo or foreign as this may sound to people who are new to a lot of these terminology or this form of healing, you should also know that she is also a licensed acupuncturist and a best-selling author of the book Chakra Healing.
Yes.
Yes. And I wouldn't be surprised if our listeners actually have this book on their shelf because Margarita and I actually had a conversation 2 years ago when this book was first released. And just like a month ago, I was over at my childhood best friend's home, who we went on completely separate paths. She's a CPA, an accountant, and of course, me, I'm like on this personal development world. And she had this book on her shelf too.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to the work that you are doing, activating people into seeing that tapping into our spiritual practice is integral to all of our lives. So shout out
Yes.
to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so funny because, first of all, thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here. And I love reconnecting with you in this realm because I know, we've done this before and we've both grown since then, which is amazing. Not like I'm surprised because it just is, right? Like, I mean, if you roll with it, we grow. But yeah, one thing I've noticed about the book is that it's really accessible, and that's, really what it was meant to be, this accessible, start here kind of thing. So if you are familiar with energy healing, you can get a refresher and get some good foundation. Or if you're new, or if you're a little curious, which is what has been happening, especially once the pandemic hit, I got a lot of people tagging me on Instagram saying, "Hey, I just got this book," so that's because people are paying attention to themselves now. So, so important for all of us to tap into that frequency of ourselves.
So tell us, where is it that you are currently calling from? Where is it that you have your practice at? And also, in your own words, what is your medicine?
My medicine story. So,
Yes.
um, I'm in New York City. And really, basically in the middle. I live in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. My private practice is in the Flatiron District on Broadway between 21st and 22nd, right above Union Square. And my medicine really is to raise the frequency and the vibration of our divine power on this planet. And that I do that through the activation work more prominently, but I also do it through the acupuncture work, the Reiki work, my shamanic work. And honestly, it just kind of melds together because even when I'm performing an activation, sometimes, I move with my client and jump through portals and do some, kind of shape shifting to heal like ancestral lineages and things like that, because sometimes even that prevents or blocks someone from stepping into their power because they're like carrying ancestral shame, guilt, all that stuff. I mean, that does pass down, and it gets carried and stored in the DNA. So part of my work is to sometimes, if required, go there, clear that up, address it, heal it, and then move on into the activation so that then they can be embodied in their power.
So we're going to dig more into what activation even means. But before that, speaking of ancestors, tell us about your ancestral lineage and how this is influencing your medicine today.
Yeah. Well, so I'm multiracial, una mezcla, if you'd like. And uh, Filipino, Spanish, Irish, Chinese, And I learned recently West African and Native American as well. So it's something where that's really informed, especially in my younger years. Like now, I'm just kind of in this unified space personally that I'm not even, like I'm just going into how can I help and serve. And so I'm like kind of focused there. But it really formed who I've become because early on, like since I was a child, I for sure was very curious about my roots because I mean, I'm multiracial. So people have all of these kinds of perceptions of, oh, I don't know what she is, or, like having, putting on me their perceptions. And so it really shaped how I was growing up, because I basically grew up in a white suburban neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it provided me a lot of lessons, and some of it was painful, but it was all valuable and important. And I learned so much. And so because there was so much ambiguity and I could pass for things and not pass for things, I was curious from a very early age. So I learned about my ancestry, lineage. I was the one who would dig up the family tree. I was the one who would interview everyone in her lineage, especially my grandmother when she was still alive. And, I was all about that, and I was always going to the homeland and all this other stuff. Right. So I was always up in that. And also, part of what shaped me was that I was already burgeoning as a writer. So I had this underground cult zine called Bamboo Girl, which I know, like, especially those who are in the activist realm, like remember. And I say remember because it's like no longer around. So it's now like a collector's item. But it was really just about opening up into that intersection between race, sex, and gender, because it was really me exploring, okay, who am I? What am I doing here? That kind of thing, and then creating dialogue, and it became a global dialogue. So even though everything was analog back in the day, my PO box was like full, and it was awesome. And then I like became part of some like cult classic books and things like that. It was pretty fun. And then I became part of the Library of Congress as a result. So I mean, it was just really funny. That I don't know. I was in punk rock and I had a mohawk and I didn't care about that crap. So, but now here I am, taking it step further, rising higher, stepping up for the people in a new way. And so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and funny enough, I will post our previous interview in the show notes, but how I found you was because I was looking up how to cope with being an empath, and then you had this whole blog about taking Epsom salt baths, and I didn't even know that this was your formal life, which made me have even deeper reverence for you and the work that you do, because it's so easy to dismiss the light work that you're doing as spiritual bypassing, or, oh, she's so privileged to be able to focus on the love and the light. But the work that you are doing today, I feel, is a result of who you were before. And I want to read one of your posts. You say, your healing superpowers are awakening now because you are being called forward as a leader of light to illuminate the way for humanity. Allow yourself to release your reliance on logic and linear thinking. What will unleash your powers requires you to step up beyond what you feel you can handle. You were born for this time. So, how is it then that you transitioned from becoming an activist into an activator?
Yeah. Well, it's like because when I, personally where I was at when I was still in activator mode and, excuse me, activist mode. And really it's just morphed, because it's before it was about me, right? Before it's like, this is my experience. This is how I feel. Like it was me, me, me. But now it's transformed into others. What can I do for the collective? What can I do for this planet? And then because I'm a starseed who awakened into her starseed awareness, like I guess now 4 years ago, it is also, what can I do for this universe? So it becomes a lot bigger. It's not about me, and it's about because I mean, we're in this aspect right now where, we're in the planetary awakening. People as a collective are going through their dark night of the soul right now. And I mean, I went through that already, like 10 million times, like, just to say that I went through it too many times, in my opinion. But it is what it is, right? Because I learned what I needed to learn. So the point is that, this is something where it becomes more about who can I help? Who can I impact versus um, what can I do to heal myself and that kind of thing? Because I've already done that work, and I think that coincided at the time for me around being an activist, because there was so much that I was rageful about, I was angry about, and it was funny because when I started shifting into healer mode after being an activist, I got there were a lot of people who were like, oh, so now you're calmed down, right? Like now you're not really doing anything, kind of like I'm passive, right? And it's like, oh, hell no. It's like my fire is now honed. Okay. Like before I was a raging fire that was just like, you brush me the wrong way, I am on your ass. Right. But now it is a fire that is honed, cultivated, and directed and focused. And that is more powerful than just being a raging, whatever I was at the time, which was also helpful because it helped me, it helped other people. But what I'm saying is when you step up in higher service, it becomes you channel your power versus you are controlled by your power. And there's a difference there.
So I just have like this visceral reaction in my body as I'm so proud of being able to connect with people like you who have gone through those flames and have learned to tend to it or transmute it into the work that you're doing today. I want to talk about money
Yeah.
because you and I are both small business owners, have chosen to generate our own means of economy. And in a time where there is so much narrative of scarcity happening, how is it that we can truly believe that there is enough for all of us to go around? Like, who am I to make money doing healing work when so many others around me are suffering?
Oh, I love this question. This is like the $1 million question, even.
Really?
Um,
Where do I find that? Just kidding.
at the end of the rainbow. Yeah. So like, no, I mean, it's just such an important question. I'm so glad you asked this because that was actually my question when I first began as a healer. And that's why I struggled so much in the beginning. But I don't anymore. And the reason is because back then I did have scarcity around money. I was like, there isn't enough to go around. I even had scarcity around being in private practice in the middle of New York City. I was like, it's too saturated here. There's like a healer on every block. How am I going to even succeed? And someone who's been doing this longer than I have at that time, she already called me out on it. She's like, oh, that's not true at all. You're just in your scarcity. And I'm like, excuse me. Um, but she was right. She was absolutely 100% right. And the reason being is because I was in my scarcity that there were only so many people to serve. There were only so many people I could help. There's only enough money, right? Like, I mean, I could only get by. I can just make enough to make my bills. But if that was my mindset, and if that's anyone's mindset, then you will create that kind of reality because your reality is a reflection of what you feel is possible. So if what you're feeling is possible is very limited, and that you can only get so much and that you can only survive, then guess what? That will be your creation because you are a powerful creator. You're a powerful creator, Jim McKay, and I'm a powerful creator as well. And we get to own that, because even when I started working more diligently with a coach about like 3 years ago, and she was like kind of pointing all these things out about my power, about me being an embodiment of Gaia, and me remembering that I am this conduit between the Star Nation or the Galactic Federation of Light. Yes, there is such a thing that exists beyond our solar system, and between that and Mother Gaia, and it just seemed so grand to me. And I felt like I was being conceited. And this is a common misconception that you're full of yourself because you're owning your power. That is a lot of BS because the truth is you are powerful And you do have a big purpose in this world. And there is a big reason why you're here. And it is to help change and transform the world and to help it heal for the better, but that won't happen if you're in your mind thinking, oh, I can only do so much. I can maybe pay my Con Ed bill now, and then maybe next week I can do another one, right? If you were in that survival mode, that imbalanced root chakra mode of I'm not secure and I'm not grounded, then that is going to be our reflection. And so that's something that I saw with a lot of activists back in the day. And honestly, I was there too. So, there's absolutely zero judgment here. But what I'm saying is that how I transformed that was that I started to realize, oh my God, I'm powerful. I could actually change things. Like if I don't like this, I can change it. You're saying I can do that, and then like, oh my God, I'm like this embodiment of Gaia. Like, who am I? Right? That was the immediate response. Who am I to think that I am this thing? And it's like, but I just am, like that's what it came down to, is like, you just are who you are. If you are a powerful seer, mystic, healer, storyteller, transformer, catalyst of light for the world, you just are. It's not because you're trying to be full of yourself. You get to own what you actually are. And so, keep in mind that you actually on purpose incarnated on this planet at this time to experience this planetary awakening, because you've got this huge purpose that people need help with. So if you keep that to yourself, you're actually being selfish. You're actually being selfish by holding that in, saying, who am I to be so-and-so, right? Because again, I was making it about me when I was doing that. I was like, well, I feel weird. I feel like I'm being conceited. I feel like me, right? But when you then put the lens out and you're like, who can I help? It doesn't care if I start getting criticized. If I start getting criticized for being full of myself, which I have, right? But I don't care about that. That makes zero impact in my life, because I am driven by my service. I am driven by the impact that I am here to make. And that means that if I'm here to make impact, that means I get to improve myself. I get to invest in myself. I get to provide quality. I didn't want to say quality care, because that's very healthcare provider of me. But it's, even my clients too, I get to provide them a higher level experience, and I invest in them too, So that only happens if you're taking ownership of your own abundance. And the truth is that money is neutral. It is not the root of all evil, which is what I was told. And, and it's about your money stories and about what you're connecting with and what you grew up with. Because for me, like my dad, he immigrated from the Philippines, met my mom also from the Philippines, but she's multiracial. She passes for, white, Irish during the summertime, and they met here, but he still had those ideals, right? Because he wanted to be a farmer, but they were in poverty. And so his dad's like, no, you're not going to be a farmer. You're going to be a doctor. And so, he wanted to help his family. So he did become a doctor. So he killed his dreams of being a farmer to help out the family, which is like so old school, right? And so he became a kick-ass radiologist in the middle of Pittsburgh, PA. He helped to transform the way radiology is taken. So instead of requiring it, I think twice a year, it's only required once a year now, or something like that. I forgot all the details, but it's he did his dream, and he provided, he did what he needed to do, and he told me, you're going to have to work harder than everyone else, right? But that's his perception, and that informed my perception. And when I would see him writing the bills, he'd be like, ugh, more money, more problems, more money, more problems, right? And so guess what? I felt the same way. More money, more problems. I don't want more problems. I don't need no money, right? So that's how I functioned. So I was living in a closet in a roach-infested apartment in Hell's Kitchen in New York City. I was in punk rock. I didn't care where I was, right? Because I'm just like, I don't need money and all that stuff. But in the meantime, I probably wasn't happiest at that time. But I mean, it was fun. But the truth is that when you then transform that perception in relationship to money, money is not evil. It's just a tool. And it's neutral. So it's like if you take that analogy of like a hammer, which is a tool, You can either create and build a house with it, or you can destroy something or hurt somebody with it, but it's not the hammer's fault. It is, who's wielding that hammer. So it's the same thing here. Money just exacerbates and amplifies who you already are. If you are a light worker, you are going to create more light with your money, and you will make more money that is connected and coded with light frequency. And that is why that's important for us to be the ones making the money and to be circulating that light frequency throughout the governmental system and the world, because that is also how we change the world, is by showing up in our power, in our light, whatever that is, and being abundant, because it is now the wealth is transferring to the light workers and those who are here to take a stand for humanity. So that's where it's going to. So, allow yourself to get deprogrammed and get with a program of light.
Change your story, change your life. I feel like there's this rainbow beaming out of me now, like a Care Bear. I'm like, oh, there's
Care Bear.
There's the $1 million. I am. That is me. I also want to name that, and I love talking about this because we don't talk about this publicly. It's so easy to talk about the healing work and the manifestation, but I have found that if I'm not comfortable even receiving $100, because it took me a long time to even be okay with receiving $10, and then I would feel immense amount of shame from it. And then when I made like close to my first 100K, I was like, oh, that shame was even more amplified. And so I was so quick to get rid of it. And I realized, wow, I have a lot of work to do around just being able to receive, knowing that that's okay.
Yeah.
So I am curious though. Thank you so much for sharing your story about your dad, because my mom is the polar opposite, where her family wanted her to stay as a farmer. And she's like, heck no, I'm peacing out. I'm going to America, and manifested this dream here. So it's just it's so humbling to hear that was your dad's dream.
He wants to be a farmer. And he was a farmer, actually, in the end of it all. He was a farmer. We had a little garden, had some delicious snap peas that we enjoyed. So he got to be a gardener, a farmer in the end.
Oh, that's so sweet. How do you feel the work that you have been doing on yourself has contributed to healing your lineage?
Everything. Because what's happening now, and this is something I've noticed with basically all of my clients, and so many healers in this world, and healers can mean many things, right? But it has meant everything, because for a lot of us, we have subconsciously taken on the mantle for our ancestors and saying, the buck stops with me. The tragedy, the trauma, the pain that we have experienced for eons and centuries of subjugation and pain and whatever else that comes with, that ends with me, And so that is, first of all, a decision, and sometimes we subconsciously already made that decision. But then you become aware of that decision, and then you continue moving forward with everything that is aligned so that you are empowered. Because when you are empowered on all the levels of what that could mean for you, with money, with your purpose, with your life, with love, with all the things, then you are breaking the story of you need to be broken in order to be valid in this world, right? Because there's this like, oh, it's so glamorous for you to like be disempowered. It's glamorous for you to suffer and to be in pain and struggle. It's not glamorous. It's a choice. It just is. And when I discovered that, I'm like, oh my God, I've been choosing to struggle all this time. And that was an eye opener. And that was pretty like brutal, but whatever, it is what it is, right? And so then I made a different choice after that. And that's all it is that we get to heal our ancestors by healing ourselves and by not connecting or attaching to pain and sorrow anymore. And so that we can move forward emancipated, fully in sovereignty, and making our difference in the world. And I love what you shared about not receiving, because that's so true for a lot of healers, because so many healers are empaths, and when we feel, we're a little sensitive to like picking up on other people's feelings, like, because you'll feel the jealousy. You'll feel people threatened by you, by your success, by the money you're making, and that's happened to me too, where they're just like, oh, well, I guess that's easy for you. It's like, no, it's not easy. I worked for this, it didn't just fall in my lap. And then I got like my first 100K, right? It didn't just fall in my lap. I made it happen. It doesn't happen from luck. None of this happens from luck. It happens from intention, commitment, consistency, and showing up. And that's what I'm committed to. If you're not committed to that, it won't happen. It just won't. And so empaths, they feel, and they're always receiving all this information. And like even here in New York City, when they first come into my office, they're like, I feel like an energy sponge. If I had a recording for every single time one of my patients said that, I'd have like an album, because that's what I would hear over and over. And so we're not here as empaths to sponge up people's emotions. We are here to use that gift of psychic intelligence to amplify our work and to tap into what they need and to deliver and provide that healing. And then also to be abundant so that we can then provide higher level healing and we can get better and invest in ourselves at higher levels, because that's how it goes. When I made my first, when I paid my first $300 investment in myself, oh my God, I thought I was going to have, I thought it was going to fall off a cliff. And then it became $1,000. Oh my God, I just invested $1,000 in myself. I think I'm going to die, right? And then it became 3,000, and then it became more than that. And there's always a new threshold. So, and that threshold goes higher and higher and higher as you step up towards yourself. And so when you do the scary things and you meet that threshold, that fear you have before hitting the threshold is the adrenaline required so you leap. If you instead take that as intuition from the universe that you're supposed to hold back and it's not meant for you, then you miss the point.
Ooh, yeah. I feel like every time that I have energetically made that investment, which symbolically was through money, it lit a fire under my butt to actually step into the currency flow.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, all right, game on. All right, universe, let's do this. Okay, ancestors, this is what you've been waiting for. And this has allowed me to be in the frequency of people like you who will not perpetuate the shame from folks of color healers to be able to receive and give back, not from a place of scarcity, but from that place of abundance. So for a lot of the empaths who are listening, which by the way, I believe is everybody, most of us have maybe experienced some sort of trauma that has caused us to dissociate. And you listening to this is an invitation to feel those dormant parts of you, or maybe your energetic channels have been so blown open that you're just feeling everything. What is it that you would say, or what is it that you are currently doing to stay grounded right now? And then also, what is it that you have been learning to release?
Well, first thing first is for empaths, because we feel everyone's pain and we want people to feel good, right? Like, so we feel their pain and we're like, oh my God, let me help, but sometimes, first of all, it's unsolicited. And you want to make sure that you are showing up when you're asked, not when you feel they need it, right? Because people who are not yet ready to receive will not receive your message, no matter how awesome it is. And they just won't. Did I just do a mic drop there?
You actually did, because I find, okay, one of my challenges, honestly, because of all the tools that I've gained and the wisdom, whenever I am confronted with a friend that I really love, who I see is still stuck in the old stories of struggle and woe is me, I'm quick to want to be like, there's another way. And then I just end up triggering people. Like, I didn't ask for that, but it's so different when it's a relationship with a client that I'm working with where there's an agreement. And so I'm like, okay, how much of myself do I hold back? Which has been a whole healing journey, just unpacking why is it that I constantly feel the need to intervene or fix things.
Yeah, well, that's natural. Okay. So, first of all, just be kind to yourself about that. Completely natural. We want to fix things. The empaths, we feel it, we know what's required, right? So then we're like, here's how you fix this, right? But the truth is that everyone's a sovereign being. And by us interfering, we'd actually be interfering. That's what that is. We'd be interfering with their sovereign journey because they haven't chosen. And instead, you're choosing for them. And so you're actually interrupting their journey. And when I first realized that, that kind of blew me away. Because at first I got offended, of course, but then I was like, oh, they're right. And that's also been something that I've gotten the chance to learn, because in regards to that initial question you had for me, the way I stay grounded is I stay focused on my work, not like by working, but my purpose, what I'm here to provide in the world, my service, really. And that's what keeps me grounded because, you know, everyone, the majority of the collective, I would say, is really perceiving our experience collectively as going through hell in a handbasket, and I don't see it that way, because I've been preparing for this experience a whole long time. But what I will say is that, the dark, I'll just call them team dark, those energies that are um, purposely trying to kind of like jam our sovereignty, right? They're purposely trying to interrupt our ascension plans, right? First of all, they will not succeed. Secondly, um, you get to recognize when that's coming in. So for me, they like to come in through, like, because I'm good, right? And I'm solid, but they come to me, they try to get to me through the people I love. So what will happen is that they will get, like we're talking about energy work here and about all the different planes that are in existence. So they'll possess them, right? So they will be like possessed, whether it be like, with entities, with, alcoholism, with certain addictions, and knowing that some of these individuals, me personally, knowing that these individuals are also star seeds like myself who have incarnated from other star systems. And then this is the journey they chose, right? And that's how they try to get to me. And before, I would be like, oh my God, let me fix this. Let me address this, right? But then I'm playing into their distraction. I'm playing into the distraction. So don't stop getting distracted, right? Know how you are getting worked. So that's why I'm always saying, do that internal work around those things that trigger you, around those things you fear the most, because that's what they use against you. And fear is such a powerful motivator, and it's also an illusion. It's totally not even real. So if we keep on living from that place of fear, we are actually creating a matrix that's called a tertiary matrix that is based on illusion, but because you're so powerful, you've made it alive, right? So now that's your reality, versus your primary timeline, which is based on your divine truth around you being powerful, you being abundant, you making an impact, you being the love that you desire, and you receiving so much love, you being fulfilled and flowing with love. That's your truth. That's your reality. But we forgot that. And so, but when we remember, that's when we're dangerous, because then we cannot be controlled anymore. So that is why that is so important to me. And that's why I no longer take the bait when I see now how they try to get to me. Because not to say that I'm not caring, because I am. Like, I've cultivated my powerful work so that I can be of assistance, but you can be best of assistance to those you love by being in your power. Because if you're a hot mess, don't expect to be helping people, right? So do your work personally, whatever that looks like for you. Clear out your triggers, heal your heart from all the betrayals, clear out that bitterness that you've been carrying from who's hurt you, right? Because that's not even relevant. And usually they're not even caring about that anymore. Like usually we're still holding it. And do that internal work so that you can then be unstoppable and just stay focused, and that's how I stay grounded during times like this.
Wow. So What is a ritual then or practice that people can begin incorporating into their lives so that they can, I'm assuming, awaken to the star seed that they are?
Good
Or is it only or
question.
is it only special people who get to be a star seed?
Well, we all have galactic coding, so let's just put it that way first, right? Like, I mean, we're not just human DNA. We also have galactic codes of light, but we've also received other programming as well, which is why so many of us are still asleep, because we were programmed that way. So it's like we get to take a stand for our divine self, and the way we can connect with that, whether you're a starseed or not. But if you just desire to awaken into the fullest potential of who you are and really connect with that spiritual power that you possess, then it all comes from the heart. So one thing that I love to do, it's very basic, but it works every single time, is putting your hand over your heart and just connecting with your heart. And, like if I ever feel like I'm, not in alignment, or I'm getting a little flustered or something like that, I just go back to the heart, and I'm like, and I'll just ask her, I'll just be like, what do I need right now? Or should I say, what do you need right now? I'll say to my heart, what do you need right now? So that we can move forward in an empowered way. And she'll say something. Sometimes it's, I need some rest. Maybe I need an Epsom salt bath. Maybe it's, I'd like you to buy me some roses. Maybe it's, you need to create this recording, right? Like sometimes she wants to create, sometimes she wants to rest, sometimes she wants to emote, whatever it is, give it to her, right? So you tap in, get the intel of what she needs, and then take the action to do it. Because what you do after that is then you reinforce the connection with your heart. Your heart will then see that you got the hint, and that it will start speaking more clearly to you, and you'll start getting quicker intel, quicker information. You will stop doubting yourself, number one. You'll start trusting yourself, and you'll start allowing yourself to connect with yourself and then with others in a way of alignment. Because that's one thing that's holding a lot of powerful people back, is that they don't trust themselves, and thus they don't trust the world, and they don't trust other people. And they carry bitterness sometimes from like past betrayals, from relationships, or things like that, or like from what family has told them growing up. And that's something you get to heal. And that all happens at the heart. And the heart actually possesses a technology of intelligence that, when activated, it just becomes like a program of light that just operates on its own frequency. And then you're actually becoming a transmitter of light into the world. And so you start first by just connecting with your heart.
Wow. And also, you pick up Margarita's book on chakra healing to dig into the energetic wheels that all of our bodies possess. Usually, I like to ask the question, what would you say as a future ancestor to this younger version of yourself that was still caught up in the struggle? But I feel like I just got a whole transmutation in this whole talk because you are already embodying it.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for your medicine, for your words of wisdom. Tell us more about where people can go to find you and receive even more of this potent, potent medicine of yours. Do I have to fly to New York?
You don't have to. I actually do mostly stuff virtual now because of, you know, what's been going on in the world. But to answer your first question, what I would be saying to my younger self is, don't believe what they're telling you. Don't believe what they're saying about you, to you. You are actually that powerful, and trust yourself. That's what I would say to that younger version of myself. Just don't listen to them. Just keep going. It's not true. And and then in terms of how to reach me, you can reach me on, I'm on Instagram a lot, and I'm also on Facebook. And I do have a website at alcantaraacupuncture.com. So, if it's something where you're interested in, if you're local and you're looking for more of a healing session, you can book through there. But a lot of my work now is really focused on activating those power codes in other people. And that's something that you can, reach out to me by DM and let me know.
Amazing. I'm just like imagining all of us awakening to the star seeds within us and imagine what would happen when those in leadership also awaken to that. I wonder how much different our world would be. So,
Yeah. Well, it's about to get different because there's going to be stuff coming down the pipeline that are going to get revealed. And so things are going to get different, more different than they are now, even. So that'll be something to look forward to.
yeah. So I'll go ahead and leave those links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Margarita, for your story medicine. And I'm excited to have you back to see how much we've evolved since then.
Yeah. So amazing. Thank you so much for having me.